Welcome to Wives Wednesday, where we will be talking about the ribs this evening on Wives Wednesday. We're going to talk about the ribs, but give you a little information about Wives Wednesday. Wives Wednesday is the introspective for us as women to look at ourselves in the mirror. And one good thing is to talk about tonight while we're talking about the ribs, because we need to know what our role and our positioning is as wives. What we should be doing, what is our responsibility in a relationship, what it is we're supposed to be doing. That's our role. And then what position we should have in our relationships. Because a lot of times, sometimes they get a little bit confusing what the difference is in roles and positions. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight on Wives Wednesday. And if you notice, I put out a few little tweets and I said, being a wife is more than being meat. Yes, we're supposed to be something good to eat. We're supposed to be sustenance, but we're more than meat. That's what ribs are, more than meat. And that's what people have to realize, as wife is not just one role that you have, it's multiple roles. It's not just being juicy and wet and you can let your mind run away with that. It's, as far as being sex, it's more than sex being a wife, if that's what you want to take it. It's more than about being a pretty presentation. Yes, it's about looking good on the outside, being clean and fresh, but it's not about just being that trophy wife, being presentable, being plated. It's more than that. It's more than having the special sauce and the special recipe, because it's a lot of formulas, it's a lot of keys. It's more than one key, and a lot of people say communication is the key, but that is one key. That is not the only key in a relationship. So it's kind of like the special sauce. You can use a special sauce, but even after a certain period of time, a special sauce can become boring, so you need to learn how to mix it up. So that is not the only thing that happens. And of course, as a rib, it's got to be more than tender and finger licking good. So because it's got to be something good to eat, of course, so you want your man to enjoy you. But as a rib is your godly position, as your godly role, as for your household to run the way that it needs to do. Hey, marriage built to last. Glad you made it. Love you showing the hearts. We're getting into our ribs tonight, as us as women, how we're supposed to be in our role and position as men. Glad you have joined me. So, and the scripture that is commonly quoted is, a man who finds a wife finds a good thing. And that is the truth. That is the truth. The key word when he finds a wife. And we like to pervert that and say when he found a woman, when he found a companion. But those are not the things. We're not talking about his girlfriend. We're not talking about dating. We're not talking about partnerships. But when he finds a wife, because a wife, clarifying that, is a union, a true union. So when he finds a wife, that is when it becomes most important, because it's a true positioning then when you become a wife. Now, for everybody else who's not a wife, who's out there, you need to be ready, because when you become a wife, that is a different role, because you become one, and that's when you're intertwined, and that's what a rib is. A rib is so deeply placed within a man, it's intertwined with him when you become one union. Because if you rip a man's ribs out, you ripped out his protection, you ripped out his support, and you ripped out his capability to breathe smoothly. And those are the things that you need to make sure are being taken care of. So we're going to dig deep, talk about your role as a rib, as a wife. So key things, as I talked about, it was three things. You should be serving as protection, you should be serving as support, and you should be serving to help him breathe smoothly. So what the rib does, and this is of course in medical, but that's why God chose the rib, because these are the things that we're supposed to do as a woman. A rib, when it's in the anatomy, is something that actually wraps around the heart and the lung for protection. Then it goes on down to the vital organs, and it protects the spleen and portions of the kidneys, and it is attached to your shoulder and helps support it, your upper abdomen, and it's attached to your back. So without a rib, you have no support, no protection on your body. So that is what we're supposed to serve as women. So remember, your positioning is over a man's heart, over a man's lungs. But then realize, as a rib, you're supposed to have flexibility, because over the lung, it gives the capability of expanding so that he can breathe smoothly. So Yes, that's why men are our protectors. That is so true. Marriage built to last, because they're our protectors, because we're so deep within their bodies. Their flesh and their body is to cover us, and that is why they should be leading us, because we're within them, because we've become one flesh and we've become one union. Because when you're not one flesh and one union and united, you're missing an integral part of your body. That is so true, because if we as women, we are so combined within that union in protecting and supporting and helping the unit breathe, that means we're always taken care of. We're always taken care of, because we're performing the function that we're supposed to be. So this is about us as women, not about men as being the perfect carrier of our ribs. Because remember, you chose that body that's carrying your rib now. So if that's the problem, then you need to make your body healthier, make your body stronger, that's carrying your rib around. But now, as your role as the woman, you're supposed to be strong, you're supposed to be flexible. And the good thing about a rib, it is self-healing. So you need to be whole and healed before you join into a union. Two women, we get into these unions and we expect men to make us whole. We expect men to heal us. We expect men to make us a whole person. But as a rib, we're supposed to be in 12 strong segments before we even get into a man. We're supposed to know what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be clearly defined and understand our role. And a lot of times that's why a relationship doesn't work, because we're not clearly defined in our union as a rib. When we're placed within a man, all 12 of our sections that we are attached to aren't strong and whole as they need to be to function correctly. So that is where we need to make sure, as the 12 sections that we're divided into as ribs, we're connected so that we can perform our job as that rib properly. So those are the roles. We need to protect, we need to support, and we need to allow our man to breathe calmly. Now this is what happens as a rib sometimes. We begin to crush our man's heart. We begin to crush his ribs. We make it to the point where he can't breathe smoothly. Sometimes we make it to the point that his blood can't even circulate, because we're choking the life out of him. And that is where, as a rib, sometimes we have to know our positioning. We're supposed to be protecting. We're not supposed to be strangling. We're not supposed to be suffocating. So be careful when you're deeply intertwined into the body, that you remember your role as a rib, that you don't lose what your responsibility is and try to take over his whole body. And that is when you need to know what your positioning is and why God put you there. Yes, we must know our position, gotta know our position. And then when we turn into what does that position mean, what is it that we do in our rightful position? In our rightful position as a rib, a lot of times we as women, we want to be a skull. We want to be wrapped around that man's brain so we can control what he thinks, what he says, what he does. But remember, out of the heart, that's where everything is planted. That's what you're supposed to be protected. So everything don't get into your man's heart. But the thing is, we're so worried about every place else in his body. We trying to be a skull. We trying to be eyes. We trying to be his lips. We trying to be his neck. But that is not the assigned position that we were called to hold. So if we get in, and if we stop trying to be a double-headed monster in some of our unions, it will work. But when we got two heads, one looking back and one looking forward, it does not make the progress any better. We have to know our role as the rib. And I like to throw that analogy in there about food, because we can all understand the concept of food when you talk about ribs. And the good thing about ribs, there are different kind of ribs, just like there are different kind of women. And that's what we must realize. We don't have to be like anybody else as women. We don't have to be like anybody else as a wife. All we have to do is know our position and our role within the body of the union of our marriage. We don't, if somebody else is acting like a pork rib, that's not what you need to be. If somebody else is being a beef rib, a lamb rib, whatever it is they are, you don't have to emulate that. The thing is, you just need to know your role, your positioning, and get in proper alignment with what God has called you to be. It's really that simple. Really just find a simple place, find a simple positioning, and find it where it is you need to be. And if you all hear noise, tonight might not be the ideal, beautiful spot that we're videotaping in, but the thing is, as a wife, there are some times that I have to do some, well, I don't have to, let me not say that. I choose to do road tripping with my husband because he is the body that covers and protects me. And by doing that, it allows me to be in a place where I can see really what affects the body, my union of the marriage, because a lot of times we have no idea as women what our spouse goes through on work. So if you hear noise, we still road tripping. He's a long haul truck driver. So if you understand that, I'm just explaining that to you all tonight. If you hear a little interference of doors opening, trucks in the atmosphere, I apologize for that noise. But as a rib, we should always be with our body in alignment. In alignment, I saw that go up on the screen. We should always be within our body. When we get outside of that, then we're not in a union anymore. We are functioning in the I, the me, and the I place of life, and that is not what a union is. I have these little illustrations that my son drew up for me as cars, as vehicles. The perfect vehicle is just one vehicle, one union. When you get two vehicles, you automatically have immediate crashing because they're going in opposite directions. And even if they call themselves going in the same direction, at some point at an intersection, they run into each other, they butt heads because they can't agree on traveling separately. So only thing I want to leave you all with tonight, wives, I told you I'm a short, brief Wives Wednesday. I just want you to remember your role and your positioning. I always want you to be something good to eat. I want you to be pleasant, something good to be on a plate. But I need you to always remember your role and positioning comes before all of those other things that got to the Proverbs 31 woman that we try to be. We got to remember how to be Eve in Genesis and be a proper alignment and positioning with what God created us to be before we can all jump all the way to the Proverbs 31 woman. We need to be what God created us to be in a perfect union within a marriage, and we need to learn how to be that rib so we can protect, support, and allow our spouse to breathe easily. And that is Wives Wednesday. Yes, your role as wife definitely always comes first before any other role, and I know there are a lot of people who disagree with that because they want to put their children first, they want to put their mothers first. But if you are cleaving and leaving as you should, your role as wife always becomes first. And it requires you to pray. It requires you definitely to look in that mirror and work on some of the characteristics that separate you from being that person. So those are the important things that you need to remember on this Wives Wednesday. I send you all off with many blessings so you all can be the best ribs for your husband tonight, whether you're preparing meals or preparing to go to study, whichever one it is. I love you all. As I've always said, I love you all. If you need me and in any way, form, and fashion, you can always find me at #Relationship Service Station, or you can send me a voice, text, or fax at 678-641-4805. Thank you, Cynthia. Love you for joining me this evening.